Chapter 4, Managing in Global Environment. 4.1 History of Globalization. 4.2 Globalization Today. 4.3 Different types of international organization. 4.4 Stages of globalization. 4.5 Managing in a global environment. Learning objectives. Define globalization and nationalism. Describe the history of globalization. Explain the different types of international organizations. Explain the relevance of the political/legal, economic, and cultural environments to global business. Effective leadership is putting first thing first. Effective management is discipline, carrying it out. Stephen Covey. 4.1 History of globalization. For some people, this global phenomenon is inherent to human nature. Because of this, some say globalization began about 60,000 years ago, at the beginning of human history. Throughout time, human societies exchanging trade has been growing. Since the old times, different civilizations have developed commercial trade routes and experienced cultural exchanges. And as well, the migratory phenomenon has also been contributing to these populational exchanges. Especially nowadays, since traveling became quicker, more comfortable, and more affordable. Definition of globalization. A simple definition. Globalization means the speed up of movements and exchanges, of human beings, goods, services, capital, technologies, or cultural practices, all over the planet. One of the effects of globalization is that it promotes and increases interactions between different regions and populations around the globe, an official definition. According to WHO, globalization can be defined as the increased interconnectedness and interdependence of peoples and countries. It is generally understood to include two interrelated elements: the opening of international borders to increasingly fast flows of goods, services, finance, people, and ideas, and the changes in institutions and policies at national and international levels that facilitate or promote such flows. Examples of some agreements, institutions that shaped global trade. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, established in 1945, is an organization made up of 189 countries. It provides temporary loans to its members, facilitates international trade, and seeks to promote economic growth and reduce poverty around the world. The World Bank, 1945, is an international financial institution that provides assistance to developing countries. It seeks to promote long-term economic development and poverty reduction by offering members technical and financial support. General Agreements on Tariffs and Trade, GATT, 1948, is an agreement between countries that seeks to substantially reduce or eliminate tariffs and other trade barriers. It was superseded in 1995 by the World Trade Organization. Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, 1967, is composed of 10 Southeast Asian countries: Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Brunei, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Vietnam. Its principal goals include accelerating economic growth, regional stability, and providing a mechanism for member countries to resolve differences. Made in China 2025, 2015, the Chinese government launched a state-led industrial policy, called Made in China 2025, in 2015 to make China dominant in global high-tech manufacturing. Trans-Pacific Partnership, 2016. The TPP was a trade agreement between Australia, Brunei, Canada, Chile, Japan, Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, Peru, Singapore, Vietnam, and the US. It was designed to lower trade barriers and reduce the member countries' dependence on Chinese trade. It was never fully implemented after the US withdrew its support. NAFTA 2.0 or USMCA, 2018. This agreement modified the original NAFTA agreement. Called the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA, among its provisions, It gives the US increased access to Canada's dairy market, establishes new labor requirements for Mexico, increases environmental regulations, and updates intellectual property and data trade protections. 4.2. Type of globalization. Political globalization. Political globalization is the type of globalization that includes the policies of countries towards governmental, economic, and cultural processes. This is the political globalization that has led to what we call the global political system, where politics, laws, and governments of some countries have found direct influence in other parts of the world. Some examples of political globalization include: 10. The United Nations and NATO are related to global governments on purpose, as well as assisting with international political current events. After the crisis, the Russia-Ukraine war and its effects on global economies, supply chains, as well as prices. The rise of international corporations such as the World Bank and World Trade Organization, WTO, at the expense of individual governments. Dissemination and homogenization of government, for example, democracy. Governments' initiatives of free trade policies for global economy. Double taxation treaties and other multinational agreements that facilitate globalization. Economic globalization. Economic globalization encompasses the internationalization of free markets and trade, as well as international movement of capital, business, goods, and people. This term is essentially used in reference to merging national economies so as to form a single entity. Additional examples of economic globalization include: car parts produced in and shipped from different corners of the world. A respectable company like the Coca-Cola, which has offices in virtually every country. Global stock markets that are connected to one another, influenced by global economies and current affairs. The impact is felt on the prices of goods worldwide due to the disruption of the global supply chain. Cultural and social globalization. Another form is cultural globalization, characterized by the diffusion and assimilation of distinct cultures on a worldwide level. The current level of global communication and interaction is because of cultural globalization enabled by technology advancements such as the internet, social media, and transportation. Some examples of cultural globalization that are evident today include: international travel and movement of people, therefore, culture. Food trade is an example of cultural globalization. It's like letting other ethnicities try other ethnic foods and letting them experience and savor how different or similar food cultures are. Social media, providing global access to culture, ideas and knowledge and more. Media is responsible for the spread of popular culture from one area to another, e.g. music, social media, film, and so on. Technological globalization. Technological globalization refers to the cross-cultural development and exchange of technology. The speed with which culture is diffused has changed as a result of technological advances. Sharing of ideas, information, goods, and services through globalization is also possible because of advances in communication technology and the media. It's the phenomenon by which millions of people are interconnected thanks to the power of the digital world via platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, Skype, or YouTube. Financial globalization. Financial globalization and financial integration are, in principle, different concepts. Financial globalization is an aggregate concept that refers to increasing global linkages created through cross-border financial flows. Financial integration refers to an individual country's linkages to international capital markets. Clearly, these concepts are closely related. For instance, increasing financial globalization is perforce associated with increasing financial integration on average. Geographic globalization. Geographic globalization is the new organization and hierarchy of different regions of the world that is constantly changing. Moreover, with transportation and flying made so easy and affordable, apart from a few countries with demanding visas, it is possible to travel the world without barely any restrictions. In geography, globalization is defined as the set of processes, economic, social, cultural, technological, Institutional, that contribute to the relationship between societies and individuals around the world. It is a progressive process by which exchanges and flows between different parts of the world are intensified. What does this mean for managers? With globalization apparently here to stay, managers and manager wannabes need to ensure they have the attitudes and skills that global management requires. Managers need to continue to develop a geocentric attitude and build their cross-cultural sensibilities. They have to be comfortable working with people from other cultures. And they have to be flexible, open to accepting differences in languages, personalities, motivation, work habits, and management styles. 4.3 Different types of international organizations. A multinational corporation, MNC, is a company that has business operations in at least one country other than its home country. By some definitions, it also generates at least 25% of its revenue outside of its home country. Generally, a multinational company has offices, factories, or other facilities in different countries around the world as well as a centralized headquarters which coordinates global management. 3 types of multinational corporations. Decentralized/multi-domestic corporation. A decentralized corporation maintains a presence in its home country and has autonomous offices and other facilities in locations around the world. This type of multinational company has the capability to achieve more, faster because it's decentralized. Each office manages the local business itself, making its own decisions. 2. Centralized/global company. A centralized global corporation has a central headquarters in the home country. Executive officers and management located there oversee the global offices and operations as well as domestic operations. They, rather than managers at local offices in foreign countries, make the key business decisions. The offices typically must report to and obtain approval from headquarters personnel for major activities. 4 types of multinational corporations. 3. Transnational, or borderless, organization. A transnational corporation involves a parent-subsidiary structure whereby the parent company oversees the operations of subsidiaries in foreign countries as well as in the home country. Subsidiaries can make use of the parent's assets, such as research and development data. Subsidiaries may be different brands, as well. The parent usually maintains a management role directing the operations of its subsidiaries, domestic and foreign. 4.4 How organizations go international. When organizations do go international, they often use different approaches as the following: global sourcing, exporting and importing, licensing or franchising, strategic alliance, joint venture, foreign subsidiary. Global sourcing. Global sourcing is the practice of buying goods and services from international markets to meet a business's needs. It involves sourcing raw materials or labor, outsourcing production, or finding new suppliers and distributors from around the world wherever it is cheapest. 4.4 How organizations go international. Exportation. In international trade, an export refers to the selling of goods and services produced in the home country to other markets, other countries. Exporting is the most traditional and well-established form of operating in foreign markets. Exporting can be defined as the marketing of goods produced in one country into another. The seller of the goods and services is referred to as the exporter. Importing. Importing approach involves acquiring products made abroad and selling them domestically. If you are buying goods from another country, bring and sell them in your region, then this course of action is considered as the import. In such a situation, you are going to be a buyer in the first place. Advantages of exportation. Manufacturing is home-based, thus, it is less risky than overseas-based, gives an opportunity to learn overseas markets before investing in bricks and mortar, reduces the potential risks of operating overseas. You could significantly expand your markets, leaving you less dependent on any single one. Greater production can lead to larger economies of scale and better margins. Your research and development budget could work harder as you can change existing products to suit new markets. Disadvantages of exportation. Unless you're careful, you can lose focus on your home markets and existing customers. Your administration costs may rise as you may have to deal with export regulations when trading outside the European Union. You will be managing more remote relationships, sometimes thousands of miles away. In overseas markets, you may lose some of the control that you are used to at home. You will need to think of your new market differently to the home market. They will be different customers with their own reasons for buying your products. Advantages of importing: better profit, good quality, cut down manufacturing cost, operation cost, wages, raw materials costing, intermediate goods costing, deal with emergency, a good and strategic decision. Disadvantages of importing: currency risk, currency rate starts declining in the international market, and other currencies start holding a dominating position. Domestic resources get a bad hit. Some companies are importing competitions or substitutes for domestic products. Due to all these things, locally made products of your country's market may get a bad hit. Acquisition approach. Strategic acquisition, also called an acquisition strategy, is a method that one company uses to gain or purchase another, hoping the consolidation of both companies can prove to be more profitable than one by itself. In business terms, strategic acquisition usually occurs because one company thinks it can benefit from synergies. Joint venture approach. A joint venture occurs when two or more businesses join together to pursue a common project. Toyota and Mazda. In 2015, Toyota and Mazda announced a joint venture to build a manufacturing plant in the United States. The plant, which opened in 2021, is jointly owned and operated by the two companies. Direct investment. Direct investment refers to an international investment in which an investor from one economy establishes a long-term involvement and a substantial amount of control over an enterprise from another economy. This type of investment is also known as foreign direct investment. BMW formed a joint venture with the Chinese automobile Brilliance Auto Group in 2003. In 2012, technology giant Microsoft and world energy leader General Electric, GE, created a joint venture aimed at using data to improve healthcare quality and patient experience. 4.5. Managing in global environment. Assume for a moment that you're a manager going to work for a branch of a global organization in a foreign country. You know that your environment will differ from the one at home, but how? What should you look for? The political/legal environment. The political and legal landscapes in the international environment are key sources of uncertainty. Managers need to know the laws in the various countries in which their organization operates and stay on top of legal changes. Managers working for global businesses contend with a growing and changing tide of employment legislation that cuts across national boundaries. The economic environment. A global manager must be aware of economic issues when doing business in other countries. First, it's important to understand a country's type of economic system. O free market economy, O planned economy. The cultural environment. Organizations have different cultures. But so, too, countries. National culture includes the value and attitudes shared by individuals from a specific country that shape their behavior and their beliefs about what is important. National culture is steeped in a country's history, and it's based on a society's social traditions, political and economic philosophy, and legal system. Developing your global perspective, working with people from other cultures. The 5 most important attitudes, knowledge, skill, and abilities for effective global leadership include: O multicultural sensitivity/awareness, O communicates effectively, O strategic thinking, O leadership, influences others, O respect for differences. Peer assignment. 1. The EU is an economic and political partnership of countries. What are the practical implications of this union? 2. Describe the role of the World Trade Organization, WTO. 3. What are the characteristics of a multi-domestic corporation? 4. What are the benefits of managers knowing foreign languages? 5. What makes the ASEAN different from EU as a trade alliance? 6. Describe how an organization can become a global entity. 7. Explain the different types of international organizations. 8. Describe the history of globalization. Thank you.